You know, I read a study once from the University of Michigan that stuck with me. It found that the average person lies about twice a day. But that's not the part that got me. The researchers said most of these aren't the big, dramatic lies. They're the small ones. I'm fine when you're not. The shall. It's no problem when it is. I've got it all under control when you're drowning. And they estimated that this constant low-level deception, this performance we put on for the world, creates a cognitive load. It's a subtle, constant drain on your mental resources, like a background app on your phone that you never close, silently sucking the battery dry, leaving you with nothing for yourself by the end of the day. That's the first hook, the silent tax you pay just for wearing the mask. I think we all have this version of ourselves we present to the world, a carefully constructed avatar. For me, it started young. I built mine out of spare parts I found lying around. A laugh I heard in a movie that seemed confident, the way a teacher nodded when a certain student spoke, the casual shrug of a boy who didn't seem to care what anyone thought. I collected these fragments, these shiny pieces of other people, and I glued them together with a desperate hope that they would stick. And they did. I became pleasant, agreeable, unshakable, the rock, the one who always had a smile, a solution, a steady hand. My avatar didn't get angry. It didn't get sad. It certainly never, ever got scared. It was a fortress, and I thought I was safe inside. But a fortress is also a prison. And the first thing you lose when you live behind walls is your voice. Not the one you used to say I'm good, how are you? But the real one. The one that trembles. The one that roars. The one that whispers secrets in the dark. I can remember the exact moment I realized it was gone. I was in my apartment, after a long day of being the person everyone relied on. I had fixed problems, soothed anxieties, delivered results. I was a machine of perfect competence. And I stood in the silence of my own kitchen, and I tried to make a sound. Just a sound. Something raw and unfiltered. A sigh that wasn't performative. A groan that wasn't for an audience. And nothing came out. My throat was tight, sealed shut. The only voice I had access to was the polished, pleasant one. The real one had atrophied from disuse. It had packed its bags and moved out years ago, leaving only an echo in the hollowed-out space where my chest used to be. This is the silent cost. It's not a one-time fee. It's a subscription service you never signed up for, and it auto-debits from your soul every single day. The currency is tiny pieces of your authenticity. You pay with a genuine reaction suppressed. You pay with a truth left unspoken. You pay with a tear you refuse to shed. You think you're saving face, but you're actually bankrupting your spirit. You become a curator of a museum where the main exhibit is a ghost. You polish the glass cases, you adjust the lighting, you make sure the placards are perfectly straight, all for a version of you that doesn't actually exist. And the real you, the messy breathing, flawed and beautiful you, is locked in the basement, gathering dust in the dark. And the performance, it's exhausting, isn't it? It's a full-body effort. You have to hold your face in just the right way, a slight, knowing smile that suggests inner peace, even when your mind is a screaming chorus of doubts. You have to modulate your voice to stay in that golden register of calm assurance, even when you want to screech. Your shoulders, you have to keep them back, square and strong, a plinth for the marble statue of your facade, even when they ache with the weight of carrying it all. Your hands must be still, not fidgeting, not shaking, even when your nerves are playing a frantic drum solo on your spine. It's a marathon of micromanagement, from the dilation of your pupils to the rhythm of your breath. You are the actor, the director, the stage manager, and the critic, for a play that never ever ends. I started to notice the erosion in my relationships. They were beautiful, shimmering mirages. From a distance, they looked like deep connections. Friends who said, You're the strongest person I know. Lovers who said, I love how you never get dramatic. And I would smile my practiced smile and feel a little piece of me die. Because they didn't love me. They loved the avatar. They loved the unshakable rock. And a rock doesn't need to be held. A rock doesn't need comforting. A rock doesn't need to be understood. I had built a persona that was so lovable, so admirable, that it had become utterly unloving. It couldn't receive. The walls were too thick. People would throw their love at me, and it would just bounce off the polished stone and clatter to the ground. I was starving at a banquet I myself had catered. The most intimate moments became the loneliest. Lying in bed next to someone, feeling the warmth of their body, but separated by a chasm of my own creation. They would fall asleep, their breath soft and even, completely trusting in the solidity of the person beside them. And I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, screaming on the inside, screaming to be seen, to be asked, no, really, how are you? To have someone look past the smile and see the cracks. But I had polished the surface so well, there were no cracks to see. I had become my own jailer, and my sentence was a profound, echoing solitude in a crowd of people who loved the idea of me. This is how it erodes your inner world. Not a sudden collapse. It's a slow, silent sinking. The landscape of your soul, once vibrant and varied with rolling hills of joy and deep valleys of sorrow, begins to flatten. It becomes a salt flat, vast, white, and barren. Everything looks the same. You stop feeling the sharp sting of sadness because you've numbed yourself to it. But in doing so, you also mute the brilliant joy. You trade the symphony of a full emotional life for the monotonous hum of apparent stability. The colors of your spirit fade to a safe, corporate gray. You become a well-manicured lawn where wildflowers used to grow. And the worst part, you start to believe your own press. The avatar, this construct, begins to feel more real than the trembling creature hiding behind it. You look in the mirror, and you see the confident eyes, the set jaw, and you forget that it's just a mask. The real you, the one that feels insecure, that gets jealous, that is sometimes petty and scared and needy, that you starts to feel like a stranger, an imposter, a malfunction in the otherwise perfect machine. You begin to hate that raw, real self for its weakness, for its inability to just play the part and be fine. You become schizophrenic in the most quiet, socially acceptable way, at war with your own heart. I remember I had a plant once, a beautiful, lush fern. I was so proud of it. People would come over and comment on how green and healthy it was. You have such a green thumb, they'd say, and I'd smile. But the truth was, I was killing it. I was watering it with a chemical solution that gave it a vibrant, almost neon green color. It wasn't real health. It was a facsimile. And one day, I went to move it, and the whole thing just crumbled. The roots were dust. They had rotted away in the pot, unable to absorb the fake nutrients I was feeding it. It looked perfect on the surface, but its foundation was gone. It had no anchor. It just fell apart at the slightest touch, and I sat on my floor, surrounded by the dusty green debris, and I sobbed. I sobbed for the plant, but I was really sobbing for myself, because I knew I was watering myself with the same poison. The poison of I'm fine. The poison of it doesn't hurt. The poison of performance. And my own roots, the ones that connected me to my truth, were turning to dust inside me. The breaking point is different for everyone. For some, it's a dramatic shattering, a breakdown, a collapse. For me, it was quieter. It was a silence that became too loud to bear. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special. The sun was out. I had a good day at work. I came home. I made dinner. I sat down on my couch, and I just stopped. The performance was over. The audience was gone, and there was nothing left. No feeling. No thought. Just a vast, hollow emptiness. It was the silence at the center of a tornado. I had spent my whole life spinning, creating this maelstrom of activity and competence, and in the middle of it all, I had vanished. I was the eye of my own storm, a perfect, calm, and utterly dead space. And in that silence a thought surfaced, not as a shout, but as a whisper. A question I hadn't dared to ask in 20 years. What if I stopped? What if I just put the mask down? What would be left? Would there be anything there at all? Or would it just be a void? The terror was paralyzing. The idea of being seen, truly seen, in my raw, unvarnished state, felt more dangerous than any failure, any rejection I had ever faced. Because if I showed them and they didn't like what they saw, then what? The carefully constructed world would implode. But the alternative was worse. The alternative was that Tuesday silence for the rest of my life. The alternative was being a beautiful, crumbing fern. The alternative was being a ghost in my own museum. So, I made a decision. It wasn't a grand resolution. It was a desperate flailing grab for a lifeline. I decided to tell one truth. One small, insignificant truth to one person. I chose a friend, a good one. The kind who you sense might see the cracks if you let them. We were on the phone, and she asked the question, "How are you?" And the avatar, on autopilot, opened its mouth to say, "I'm good, just tired." But I stopped it. I physically clamped my mouth shut. I took a breath that felt like it was tearing through scar tissue in my lungs. And I said, "You know, I'm actually not okay. I feel hollow." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. I braced for the recoil, for the awkwardness, for the end of the friendship. But it didn't come. Instead, she just said softly, "Tell me." And I did. I didn't pour out my whole life story. I just talked about the hollow feeling, the tiredness, the weight of the performance. And as I spoke, something strange happened. It was like a pressure valve, buried deep inside me, had been released. The tension in my shoulders, the one I had carried for a decade, eased by a fraction of a millimeter. It wasn't a miracle cure. The hollow feeling didn't vanish, but it was no longer alone in the room. Someone else was there with it. Someone else had seen it. That was the first crack in the fortress. And once you have one crack, the light gets in, and other things can get out. The next time, it was a little easier. I told my partner I was feeling insecure, something the avatar would have never, ever admitted. I let a tear fall in front of a colleague when I was overwhelmed. Each time, I expected the world to end. And each time, it didn't. The sky didn't fall. The people I cared about didn't run away. In fact, something else happened. The connection started to feel real. The love I received felt different. It wasn't bouncing off a stone wall anymore. It was landing on soft, broken, fertile ground. It was being absorbed. This is the rebirth. It's not about destroying the avatar. That persona, that strength, it's a part of you. It was a survival mechanism. It served a purpose. It protected you when you felt you needed protection. You don't have to hate it. You can thank it for its service, and then gently, lovingly, ask it to step aside. The goal isn't to become a raw, bleeding nerve for the world to see. The goal is integration. To bring the curator out of the museum and into the basement. To sit with the dusty, forgotten parts of yourself and say, "I see you. You are welcome here." It's about reclaiming your entire emotional spectrum. The anger is information. The sadness is a cleansing rain. The fear is a compass. They are not your enemies. They are parts of the whole messy, magnificent human being that you are. It's a slow process. It's like rehabilitating a wild animal that has been caged for too long. You can't just swing the door open and expect it to run free. It will be scared. It will huddle in the back of the cage, distrustful of the vast unfamiliar world outside. You have to be patient. You have to sit quietly, day after day, offering little morsels of safety. A truth spoken here. A feeling acknowledged there. You have to prove to your own soul that it is safe to come out. That it won't be punished for being what it is. You will have setbacks. There will be days when the old mask feels more comfortable, more safe. You'll slip it back on for a meeting, for a family gathering. And that's okay. This isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's about the conscious choice, more and more often, to choose the real over the perfect. To choose connection over protection. To choose the messy, unpredictable, and vibrant truth of who you are over the safe, sterile, and lonely lie of who you think you should be. So, if you're listening to this and you feel that familiar hollowness, that quiet ache of performing, this is your sign. This is the whisper in your ear. You don't have to tear it all down today. You don't have to make a grand announcement. Just make one change. One tiny, almost imperceptible change. The next time someone asks you how you are, pause. Just for a second. Check in with the real you, the one hiding in the basement. And if the real answer is tired, or struggling, or I don't know, see if you can let that version have just one word. Just a sliver of the truth. Let one tiny crack appear in the perfect facade. It will feel terrifying. Your heart will hammer. Your palms might sweat. Do it anyway. Because on the other side of that fear is not the rejection you imagine. On the other side is the possibility of a hand reaching back through the crack. On the other side is the first, fragile tendril of a real connection. On the other side is the beginning of your own homecoming. You have been a ghost in a house you built for someone else. It's time to move back in. It's time to turn on the lights, open the windows, and let the wild, untamed, and beautiful mess of your true self air out. The world doesn't need another perfect statue. It needs the real, breathing, flawed, and magnificent you. And more importantly, you need you. So take the first step. Just one. And then another. The journey home is the most important one you will ever take. And it starts with a single honest breath.